When we speak of the HS2, we think of delays, over budgets, and all of the recent cuts that have shrunk the project down to a stump from London to Birmingham. There are a lot of negative sentiments about the project, and people often question whether it is even necessary. I want to build a case for its defense. The HS2 is so much more than just saving 30 minutes on a London to Birmingham journey. The project has an often overlooked benefit. Recently, those who follow rail news must be devastated to hear that the Office of Rail and Road, or the ORR, had to reject requests from open access operators, including Virgin, from starting new services on the West Coast Main Line. And what does this have to do with the HS2? Well, the reason the ORR rejected these requests for new services on the West Coast Main Line was simply because of the rail line, which still relies on Victorian infrastructure, is seriously outdated and congested. It handles a mix of high-speed intercity trains, local commuter services, and vital freight operations, and it's stretched to its limits. The HS2 infrastructure isn't only available for high-speed trains, but could also allow slower but still relatively fast intercity trains to utilize the same infrastructure. This will relieve the West Coast Main Line and allow slower local and regional trains, as well as freight trains and open access operators like Virgin, to operate more services and give travelers more options. In addition, I can't help but think that the Conservatives' plan of cancelling the HS2 segment from Birmingham to Manchester mirrors their shelving of Crossrail 2 when Crossrail was incredibly delayed and unpopular. But in hindsight, the Elizabeth line in London was really a game changer, and I believe that the HS2 would be the same. In fact, the shelving of the route to Manchester significantly eliminates the benefits I just discussed of the HS2. As I said, the lesser known benefit of the HS2 was to provide relief for the West Coast Main Line, but without the continuing segment to Manchester, the West Coast Main Line would remain a bottleneck, and in fact the high-speed rail trains would have to continue onwards to Manchester on the conventional rail network, and that would only further congest the network northwards beyond Birmingham. It is imperative that the HS2 segment to Manchester be restored to their plans, or that something equivalent be included. For example, there are discussions of the midlands-north rail link, which was proposed to replace the cancelled HS2 segment to Manchester. That may be better than nothing, but won't match the ambition the full HS2 would have offered. Without more consistent rail services, people are going to rely on their cars and clog up the motorway and harm the environment. We can't keep kicking the can down the road, and we have to be bold and decisive to get it done. The HS2 was not a vanity project, and we're not building a monument to Ozymandias. The HS2 was what is needed to bring the UK's infrastructure into the 21st century.